Duncan, I've muted you, by the way. Good to see you. Let me unmute you for a second. I will keep everyone muted just because the sound's annoying. Duncan, you aware that we're doing a Call Friday as well?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Okay, awesome. Just because a few people messaged me like, is the call today? I was like, no, this is different. So, but no, good to see you. It's we'll be covering probably a lot of the stuff that we've already discussed, but for everyone else, it's obviously different. For you, it would just be a reminder, I imagine.
Brilliant. Looking forward to it.
Cool. Let me mute you. So we're just kind of, people are just sort of filtering in. Let me mute everyone. People keep kind of appearing in the waiting room, and I have to keep approving them. Ideally, they would just be coming straight into the virtual room, but we'll give it a few more minutes, and then we'll get cracking. So it's just scrolling down the names here. There's some people I don't know, some people I do. So it's good to have you here. Barry is in as well. Yeah, so I'll give it like a minute or so. You don't have to just keep staring at my face for too much longer. I will start talking, but for some reason, as far as I'm aware, normally participants come straight in, but they're going into the waiting room and then I'm having to approve them. So we'll give it a few more minutes. But no, it is awesome to see everyone here. I purposely made it a little bit harder, as in what you can do, if any of you are familiar with kind of tech and stuff, I could have, when you first opted in, it to register for this. So I didn't even need to really make everyone register. But the reason I did that is because, yeah, it makes it a bit more of a ball ache for everyone, but it means that everyone is here, actually wants to be here. They've actually, you have actually taken the time to follow the link and fill in the stuff and be here. So just means the quality of the room is better. So I've allowed everyone to be able to unmute themselves, but ideally don't, please, unless at some stage at the end I'll probably open it up for questions, but during it I will end up going into flow at some stage, and I get lost in my own world as I'm talking, and then if suddenly I hear some dog barking, it like scares the shit out of me and disrupts my flow entirely. David Lloyd, got you on the screen as well. I like it. I won't be able to hear you, but I can see your face. So if you want your camera on, that's cool. I know most people that got their cameras on are people I know. Sometimes it's quite nice for me to feel like I'm talking to a human rather than talking to a little camera lens. So it's pretty cool. But if you don't want to be seen, that's totally fine as well. So I'll start talking, and then I'll just keep an eye and let people in before we get into flow of it. Can everyone hear me okay? Can you let me know there's a chat box at the bottom. If you're familiar with this, then awesome. Cool. I can hear the audio, can't hear the audio. Yeah, so some people can hear the audio, some people can't. There's buttons along the bottom. You can see mute, stop video, etc. As you come in, it would have asked how you wanted to join the audio. So if you can't hear me, then you might need to go out and go back in again. But it looks like everyone can hear me. So this chat box we'll use for when I ask questions. With everyone being in lockdown, you're probably familiar with Zoom by now. Like prior to lockdown, Zoom was something I've used and known about for years, but most people didn't really tend to use it unless you kind of have online businesses and stuff. But now all of a sudden, they're I don't know the stats, but they went from having a few, I don't know, 1,000 or 100,000 users to like millions overnight. Everyone's using it for like fancy dress and all sorts of stuff. So fancy dress quiz nights and all that kind of stuff. It's like become like the virtual pub. So anyway, I think, as I said, we'll start talking, and then I'll just keep letting people in as and when. But yeah, the chat box is at the bottom. So when I ask questions, if I want you to kind of jump in, then to start off with, let's just chuck it in there because it's easier. At the end, I might open people up for conversations if we've got time. I'll try and keep this to about an hour to an hour and a half. But again, if it gets to that time and you need to leave, that's cool. And when I say try, it's because I like to talk. There are a couple of slides, but not really. This is essentially just my notes and what I want to talk about. Anyone that's worked with me before knows that I like to just flow, really. I like to go where it is, go where I kind of naturally feel I want to go. And also it means I can adapt to who's here as well, you know, rather than kind of be rigid and say, right, this is what I'm talking about. If it turns out that other people are coming up with different questions, then I can adapt to that. So the idea is I can give you the most value that I can. So you might, you're probably going to want some water. You might want a paper and pen if that's how you prefer. But what I'm going to invite you to do, some of you I don't know, so I don't know how familiar you are with this kind of conversation, this kind of experience, but I would invite you to be more of an explorer than a researcher. So what I mean by that is sometimes, and I used to do this, I was more of like a researcher, you know, it was like I was coming in to see what was true and see if it matched what I already believed to be true and write things down. And it was like I was gathering everyone else's maps of how to live, and you scroll on Insta and someone's saying, do this and feel that and live this way. And it's like, I'd be kind of almost holding everyone else's map of the world of how I should or shouldn't feel or what I should or shouldn't do. And then, you know, you'd scroll Insta and someone would say that it's important to have a lay-in, and you're like, yeah, but then the next person's saying, if you have a lay-in, you need to beat yourself up. And it was like this confusing place for me, because it was like I was looking for the right answer and the consistently right answer. So I'd be reading books from that place and doing courses from that place. And inevitably you'll find that there's conflicts, because it's like one person says something and someone else says something else, but then what feels true for me is something else. And it can be this kind of big, total confusion, really. So when I say be an explorer, what I mean by that is listen for what feels true to you. Listen for what feels right to you. Listen kind of not really to agree or disagree, but just to listen. Like, listen without listening, if that makes any sense at all. And I'm sure it will as we go. Because we're often looking for information. We think that we want information. We think we want how-to information. But what gets lost in that instructional stuff is the insight, the understanding behind the how-to, if that makes any sense. So if I say, right, you need to go and meditate every day, it's like, without, you know, how many people know that but don't meditate anyway, you know, or they know they should but they don't, or I know I should get up and do this but I don't, or because often we're lacking that kind of insight. We're lacking the understanding for ourselves of why. So like, if I say something, try and look beyond the words. Like, what is it that I have to see in order for this to be the obvious thing to say? You know, what is it that you have to see in order for it to make sense to you? So anyway, let me stop waffling for a second and start progressing. But does that make any form of sense at the moment, or not? Yeah, cool. I can see a few thumbs up, which is useful. Awesome. So let me just check these comments. I've got 2 more people to let in. Cool. So as an example of what I've just said, one of the things I used to consistently hear was about showing up. Just show up. You've probably heard that before. Or 80% of success is showing up. And it's like, intellectually that makes sense. And intellectually it's like, okay, cool, you've just shown up today. So you've already done the hard part according to that. But there's a difference between how you show up. There's a difference between, so for me, it's like, you can show up and be like this. I mean, like, this is boring, and you can be on your phone and you can kind of walk off, get bored, you know, or you can show up and be kind of actively engaged. And I'm not telling you what one to be, by the way. You do whatever you want to do. You know, if you find me boring, click off. If you think I'm nuts, then that's cool. But what I'm saying is look beyond the words, look for the understanding, look for, like, how does this feel? Does this feel true, or does it not? Because it gets lost in translation, as we'll get into, because we're going to delve into the thinking, communication, etc. So let me just make sure I have covered everything there. So in terms of me, not only do I not sit still, apparently, all I see is me moving around the screen. I get excited. I tend to go off on tangents at points. I tend to swear. I tend to use weird analogies. You know, and again, if this isn't your kind of cup of tea, if I offend you or whatever, then obviously you feel free to leave at any stage. Hopefully that won't be the case, but I guess I'm just saying in advance, this is how I am. This is how I tend to kind of operate. Let me just let 2 more people in. We got the latecomers. The latecomers should probably do like a burpee for every minute they're late or something, just for fun. So yeah, so in terms of, like, some of you obviously know my story already. I don't want to talk hugely about it because I want to get into the real kind of meat of what this is. This isn't going to be one of those clever webinars where I sort of hack you into a state, kind of whip your ass and get you to give me all your money if you just run to the back of the room and give me 10 grand. You know, I'm actually quite I'm not a fan of those. Let's put it that way. I find them quite inauthentic and manipulative. And for me, I much prefer to kind of show up, do what I enjoy, have fun with this, just be who I am. And if at the end of this, you decide that actually this has been fucking awesome and I'm good to now go away and sit with this, do whatever, that's great. You know, if at the end of it you say, yeah, I want to stick around to find out what's on offer today, then that's totally cool as well. It's kind of like, people that come into my world, they're in my world because they choose to be, not because I've hacked them using special language patterns and, you know, bullshit scarcity that if you just sign up in the next 4 seconds, then, you know, you'll get a unicorn. I'm just not into that. So you either love this, enjoy it, get something from it and choose to stay, or you don't. That's kind of simple, really. So does that make sense so far? Jamie likes unicorns. Good to see you, mate, by the way, or see your name anyway. Cool. So if you're on camera, you can give me a little thumb up. If you're not, then that's fine. I don't know how many of you I can see on the screen, but cool. So yeah, in terms of me, I don't want to talk loads about me, even though it seems like that's what I'm doing currently. But in short, the short version of this is I, you know, like a lot of people, I grew up with nothing. You know, I had to work from like 11. I was waitering and working on the market, and it was like, that was my experience growing up in a council estate. Never had anything. You know, bullied for wearing the shit trainers off the market that cost like £5. They had like the Nike tick but backwards. But on some level, I always wanted more. I you know, experienced kind of a lot of stuff in my childhood: crime, drugs, you know, dark stuff as well, abuse. My mum's got a personality disorder, so that, you can imagine, that's like bipolar. That was interesting. So there was a lot of kind of crap that I went through, but on some level, I decided that I wanted to be better. I wanted to use all of this as a platform to grow from. I looked at all of this and knew on some level that I could use it as clarity around what I didn't want, rather than what I did. I don't know where that come from. I don't know why, but that's just what was true for me. So I went to uni and stuff because I was kind of sold the lie that I think I was the first in my family to go uni, and I was kind of sold the lie that if you just had the degree and stuff, you'd walk out and get an amazing job and have millions of pounds. But, you know, the reality was, if anyone's experienced that, is I come out and realized that I was no better off. I just had more debt and there wasn't jobs. So I accidentally started my own business at this point. I started as a personal trainer. And I wasn't aware when I did that it was a business. I just thought, oh, I'll just do what I enjoy. I didn't realize I needed to know about tax and accounts and sales and marketing. And then I had staff, and then I had studios, and I had 2 studios, and I had more staff. And then you got tax and VAT. And it was like, it was a total shitstorm for me. And I was up and down. One day I felt like everything was possible. The next I felt like I couldn't even get out of bed, and I'd pretend that I was working, but I wasn't. I just wanted everyone to just leave me alone. I just wanted the world to just leave me alone. Like, even a text would come through, and I couldn't even muster up couldn't be asked to even reply. It's like, it felt like the biggest challenge in the world. And that made me think I was bipolar. And I didn't tell anyone about this. No one knew, because what I presented to them was this version of me, you know, the happy, energetic, people love being around. What they didn't see was behind the closed doors, was when I was kind of there was self-doubt, there was negativity, there was overthinking, there was confusion, there was overwhelm, constantly buying courses, hoping I'd find the next answers, trying to work out what the hell was going wrong with me. My wife thought I was bipolar as well, because she's not like me. We've been together like 11 years now, but so she just thought, she's the only one that saw the other side of me, the darkness, like, and she was like, yeah, I think you've got issues. So that didn't, help. I didn't know anyone else like me. So I did neuroscience, NLP, psychotherapy, psychology. I did psychology at uni as well. I wanted to be a sports psychologist, but I couldn't afford it, the masters, which is the story of my life at that point. But to my surprise, and a lot of people's surprise who I tell this to, my life didn't really get better. It did in marginal kind of ways, but the more I learned about myself, the more fucked up I felt. The more I felt like a fraud because I should know better. I'm doing all these things. I'm now getting up at 5 and I'm meditating and I'm planning my day and I'm doing all these things, but yet at the same time, I'm still all over the shop mentally. I'm still snapping at the ones I love. I'm still feeling like I'm going from clarity to complete confusion, to feeling like I know what I'm doing, to feeling like I'm completely lost, to feeling, from happiness to stress, and no patience with staff, feeling like I've got no fucking clue what I'm doing. Debt was coming out of my ass. And I resented and hated the whole thing, so I just gave up on it. I basically just walked out. The whole thing was shut. Debt, court summons, bank account shut, paying for food with my nectar points that I'd accrued over the years. So I kind of went from rags to riches, back to rags again, lost the house, had to move in the in-laws with my wife and kids, which was not the most fun. Let's put it that way. I felt like I'd failed in every sense, every possible way I'd failed. And it was like, what the hell happened? Like, what is going on? I knew on some level that I was the problem and I needed to be better. And if I was going to create what I wanted, then I needed to solve this shit, whatever was going on. And to my discovery over that time, I started to realize that there wasn't anything wrong with me at all, that I wasn't as fucked up as I thought I was, and that actually there was loads of other people who felt like me. I started doing videos like this. Some of you here, I think, saw my videos probably 4 or 5 years ago. And I was putting them out and it was scary as fuck, because I'm thinking, all my friends, people on my Facebook and stuff at the time thought I was mental. I think people thought I'd absolutely lost it. I'm sure Jenna did as well. But to my surprise, I was having people messaging me and saying, wow, like you're saying the words that are in my head. And to my surprise, they were people like me who also had the cars, the money, the business, the house, the kids. They looked like they had it together, in good shape, and any combination of those things. I'm not saying those things are what you have to look like, but they weren't fucked up. And in fact, my clients, some of them are still with me even kind of 5 years on, and some of the most amazing people I've ever met. They're incredibly, they're not the most intelligent sometimes. They're not always, it's like they're all kind of mixtures of amazingness. Some of them just see opportunity. Some of them just create business ideas out of nothing. Some of them just, they inspire me. And it was like, wow, like in some ways, whilst they were getting from me as their coach, what I was getting from them is almost confirmation that actually, God, they're like me, and I look at them and think they're normal, then I must be normal. And that's kind of how this went, where, over these years, I went through all of the complexity and found the simplicity. I'd be figuring stuff out for myself, again, reading. You can't see my bookshelf, I don't think, on the screen, but reading and courses and my own coaches. And as I was finding my way through all of this stuff, I was then sharing this with my clients and seeing how it works for them and simplifying it for them and seeing their results and their lives change. And not only the way they feel, not only did things change in ways where they felt themselves kind of feeling inner peace or just feeling calmer, or just, they would say to me, like, everything has changed, yet nothing is different. It's like their life hasn't changed, but they feel different. They respond different. They act different. Their relationships would improve. People would come to me on the brink of divorce, and then 4 years later they're still married, or they'd come to me and say, I've got everything, but yet I feel like something's missing and I don't know what, and we would resolve that. You know, some people would come to me and actually they just didn't really like the life they had and they wanted to create something entirely different, and years later they have, which is always epic to see. So it isn't just the way you feel, the way you think, the way you act, it's also the results that come with this, because that's important to me as well. Like, and we'll get into this when I eventually stop talking about myself, but it isn't, there seems to be like this paradox, or people think there's a paradox, where you've got some people that have the material possessions and the success and the achievement and the experiences, and they think that they have to suffer to have this life, and then one day they'll be happy. And I can assure you that I've got clients that are at that one day I'll be happy and saying to me, fuck, I wish I'd enjoyed the journey more because I've waited 30 years to get here and actually I feel no different. So that's always good. So you've got this one group of people that I kind of, it's like I have to be unhappy and suffer, but at least I get to do all of this stuff and drive the car that I don't enjoy anyway, and wear the watch that I don't give a shit about anymore, the holiday where I can't switch off anyway, but one day it will be okay. And then on the flip side, there are people that have actually looked in the direction of inner peace and meditation and personal development and whatever else you want to put in there, breathing and different breathing exercises and cryotherapy and training and extreme sports and whatever it is. And sometimes these people are like, yeah, I feel amazing. And that in itself is a reward. Like, if you felt that is like, wow, you know. But then it's like, they can't seem to merge the two. So it's like you have to choose between a kind of rich internal life or a rich external life. But when you see they're two of the same, to me, there's absolutely no reason why they can't both exist. So the reason I'm saying this is it isn't just about being happier. It isn't just about, you know, kind of, in a weird way, it's like I always feel a bit kind of, it feels a bit wet, like a wet flannel saying this, but falling in love with yourself, like, and who you are, and getting to know yourself and what drives you and why you do the things you do. And after spending years kind of building up all of this crap, it's like we now spend years taking it all out and kind of returning back to this simpler, calmer, more kind of creative, insightful, happier version of ourselves. But it's also, what do we then do with that? And for me, that's what we then do with that, is go and create. Like, there's nothing more enjoyable than creating. There's nothing more enjoyable than, you know, even for me, it's like I put out a video and that video now has, you know, there's only, 23 of us, I think, but there's 150 or so, 160 register. So fair play for you lot for actually being here. That's kind of what happens. But it's like, you know, there are some names here I haven't even met before. That's awesome. Like, I can't wait to kind of get to know some people and see what's going on. But it's like that process of creation where you go from an idea to something coming into form, like a video, to somehow having people in a conversation with you. It's like this, to me, that's what life is. It's this canvas to draw on. It's this kind of Play-Doh that we get to shape into whatever we want. But first off, we kind of need to get out of our own way in order to do that. First off, we need to get out of our own thinking and limitations and sometimes invisible thinking to access what I call superconscious mind. You can call it deeper mind, or you can call it whatever, to then actually create what we want. So again, does that all make sense so far? That's an example of me going off on one. Yeah. Cool. So I'm getting some thumbs up. If you want to chuck anything in the comments, that's cool. Whilst I drink my green tea. Awesome. Cool. So it's good. The reason I ask is just because, you know, if you say, what the hell are you talking about? Then I know I can go back and clarify. But if everyone says yes, then that's cool. It means you're with me. And to be honest, the chances are you wouldn't be here if you didn't relate. And that's the joy of this. So on to my point. Let me just make sure I've covered what I wanted to cover there. So moving on from that. So thanks for the comments there. It's awesome. It's good for me to see that, yeah, everyone's following. Cool. And this, I'm going to go a little bit deep, and then we'll come back up again for some air. But for me, I always felt a bit of a chameleon. Like it was like I probably, if I was to say the whole of my 20s was like an identity crisis. I didn't have a clue who I was or who I was supposed to be in order to create what I wanted. And I would shape myself into whatever I felt I needed to be in order to try and create what I thought I wanted, to buy things I didn't want, to impress people I didn't even like anyway. So, and then it was like I'd go and achieve something and go, that's not really it. Or I'd go buy a nice car for the first, all these years driving these shit cars. I'd get the first nice car, and I do like cars, to be fair. It's one of my guilty pleasures. But it's like when I first got like a nice car, I imagine that when I pulled up in it, everyone would be like, "Whoa!" You know, like, "Look at you!" But you pull up in it, and you're like this. Cool, and everyone doesn't even look anyway. You're like, "Do you like my car?" They're like, "What car?" "This car." "Oh, yeah, I didn't realize." Like, it's just funny the stories we tell ourselves. If only I have this much money, then I'll feel secure. And if only I have this car, then I'll feel successful. And if I just had this many people on my webinar, then that'd tell me I've got something good to say. And if I just had this car, this house, this whatever. But the problem with this is it all implies that the outside world is backwards, because there is nothing out there that will ever make us feel something in here. It's just a very convincing illusion. That's why I love going to as high up as I could in terms of, someone's trying to come in here. That's why I like going up as high as I could to the highest performing clients, because at that point it was like they'd created so much that it then made it even more obvious how much of a fallacy this was, how much of because they would. I've got a client who, obviously you don't know who they are, so I can share their experience, but he's just sold his business. He's had 2 million paid into his bank, and he's told me for years that this will be when he finally feels good, you know. And last week he was more stressed than ever, because he's now panicking about trying to spread it between different banks. What if the banks go under? What, because they're highly leveraged? He's then talking about buying gold and bury it in the garden, and like it's just hilarious, because you go, Christ, for so long you've told yourself that you will feel something when you have this money, and actually the experience is very different. And you know, I'll feel secure when I have the money, but he feels even more insecure than ever, because now he's worrying about losing it. The same is true for so many things, and it's all based on the misunderstanding that something outside of ourselves can make us feel something inside. It's backwards. It's outside in, but we're inside out. So to move on with that, it's like you only ever really experience your thinking. That's the only way this world ever works. You don't experience the money, you experience your thoughts around the money. You don't experience the car, you experience your thinking around the car. You don't experience your friends or love or your wife or husband or kids or your house. You experience your thinking around those things. Which is why I thought I was bipolar, because some days, this is still true, by the way, some days I get in my car and love it. I'm like, just, there's not many material things I like these days. Like, well, there is actually, that's a lie, but there are certain, you know, I have my certain things and certain things I don't care about, like clothes. It's just like Top Man t-shirt does the trick. But like my car, I'll get in and be like, wow, I love this car. And I feel like the big swinging dick, you know, driving it. Like, yeah, I'm the real gangster. I don't know what the words are these days. I'm not cool with the kids anymore, but we'll go with it. But there are some days where I get in it and I forget I'm even driving it. Or there's some days someone keyed it. I don't know why. I mean, I do know why, but we won't go into that. Someone keyed the side and down the front, and for that day, I hate the fucking thing. Like, I wish I'd just got rid of it. What a waste of money. I actually missed my old cars, because my old cars were crap. So you'd smash them up the curb, you'd reverse into something, but like, that's funny. It's like, so the point is, how can I one day love it, one day not really care, and one day hate it? And how can that switch from moment to moment or day to day? Because the car hasn't changed, ever. I mean, you could argue it has when it got keyed, but the car hasn't changed mostly. It's the same car. So why do I feel different about it? And why do I feel different about what I think I can or can't do? Or why do some days I feel confident and some days I don't? Or why do some days I feel happy and some days I don't? Or why do some days I feel like I'm pumped full of some narcotic and I can take over the world and make the world a better place. But then the next day I feel like I can't be asked to get my ass off the sofa and I just want to watch Netflix or something. Like, because the outside world stays consistent. The inconsistency is our thinking and living in the feeling of our thinking. Does that make sense? What car? People are asking my car. Yeah, the Jag. It was a Mercedes I first got. I went from like a Vauxhall Vectra to a Mercedes. Now it's the Jag, which I like, although I'm probably old beyond my years driving a Jag, but I love it anyway. So anyway, I've lost my train of thought now. Yeah, so it's like we could all of us, 24 of us, we could all go cinema today. We could watch, well, we can't actually because of lockdown, but we could watch a film. All of us could have a different opinion. You could say, I hate this actor. Someone else could say, I love him. I thought it was shit. I thought it was too loud. Don't like the cinema anyway. I really love the cinema. You know, like we'd all have different opinions, but the film's the same. Nothing's changed. We didn't watch individual versions of the film. We just watched individual versions of the film because we filtered it for our thinking and then for our emotions and for our perceptions. So when you really think about the implications of that, what implications is that having on life? Because what that means then is the stress isn't really the stress. What you think is causing you stress isn't really causing you stress. What you think is going to make you feel happy or successful or loved or, I don't know, whatever other emotion you might be looking for, that thing isn't going to cause it. We're only ever feeling our thinking. We're living moment by moment in our thinking, which informs our feelings. But the joy of this is our thinking informs our feelings and our feelings inform our actions, and our actions therefore create our results. So we are quite literally creating our own universe, our own world, without realizing. And the problem with this is when everything seems to be in our control, when the staff are doing what they should be, or if you work on your own or work in a job, when your colleagues are doing this, or when your business is doing this, or when everything lines up, then it feels awesome. You're like, yeah, now I can feel good because I'm controlling everything. But when something like COVID-19 comes along, it really makes you realize just how little control you had over anything at all, you know, and it creates a backwards law with this, because I see people, and I was like this when I was early on in this industry, and I still see it now, and, you know, whatever, is people start to build up their whole sense of achievement and happiness based on habits and stuff like that, which there is a place for habits, which we'll get into. But then it's like, I have to feel this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and do all of this, and plan my day, and meditate, and box breathe at this point, and get this much sleep, and it just creates all of this more shit that we have to control in order to feel something. And it's all based on a misunderstanding, because the only thing we ever feel is our thinking. So to me, that then points to the obvious that you could now say, therefore, the answer is positive thinking. But how's that working? How's that working for you? Let me know. How's positive thinking working for you? Are you able to positively think every single day, every single week, every single, you know, every second of every day? No, cool. There's a couple of shaking heads there, which I'll waiting for the comments to flow in. No, cool. That's right, mate. Don't worry. Yeah, Simon, I'll put the, I'm recording this anyway, so I'll probably put the recording somewhere. Cool. So, so we're getting no's. I mean, there could have been a yes in there. Then I would have probably needed to make them the host, and then I'll watch instead. But the reason I say that, and I joke about this stuff, because whilst I love this and take it seriously, I also don't think it needs to be taken that seriously. It needs to be more kind of lighthearted sometimes. Which I tell a story about this. I had someone, I don't tend to deal with real serious shit. You know, if someone comes to me and it seems like they need some form of kind of more, you know, psychiatric, psychology, you know, that sort of stuff, then I tend to refer them on. But what I can bring to them is an acceptance and space to kind of talk into with no judgment. Nothing's off limits for me. But there was someone that come to me that was suicidal, and whilst I was like, shit, if I'd known this, I probably wouldn't have got into the conversation in the first place, or I would have done, but not in the capacity that I did. But to my surprise, like, he was telling me, everyone's telling me shouldn't think the thought, shouldn't think the suicidal thought, shouldn't this, shouldn't that, and trying to convince him why there's all these reasons to live. And I know this is a little bit dark for a second, but to his surprise, I was like, all right, cool. And I was like, so do you actually want to do it then, or what? Like, and he kind of paused for a second, like, what a fucking weird question, because I'm opening up the possibility of doing it. And he's like, I'm not sure. And I'm like, how would you do it? Like, what were you hoping to get from it? Like, would it be quick? Would it be like, what were you thinking? Like, what would you have in mind? Like, and I was just talking like this, like, because it's just a fucking conversation. And it's the first time he realized that he didn't actually want to kill himself. It was just a thought. He was just thinking that he did, and he thought that meant something. He was thinking that he wanted to kill himself, and that thought was then making him feel like, what's wrong with me? Why am I thinking this? I shouldn't think like this. Look at all the reasons you shouldn't do this. And everyone's telling him, don't think it, don't think it, don't think it. And it was just creating this thought that he was actually inadvertently giving so much attention and power to, that it was growing and growing into this monster. And I come along and I'm like, oh, it's just a thought. Like, we all have weird thoughts. Like, I suddenly think about, I don't know, just walking off or something, or throwing my cup of tea in the air, or I wonder what would happen if I don't know, drove my car freaking over the park and did some handbrake turns, or I don't know, like, these are shit examples, but the point is, we all have weird thinking. And I even tested this theory when I then went home to Jenna, who is very sane and normal and not really a deep, complex thinker, which I envy sometimes. And she's like, yeah, I have weird thoughts, And a client that come to me early days as well, as we spoke about this, he thought he was fucked up because he had these weird thoughts about, and there is a point to this, by the way, like, he had these fucked up thoughts. And I'd be like, well, what are they? And it's like, well, like my nan, sometimes I just imagine like punching her in the back of the head or throwing her tea, or like, it's literally what he said. And I was pissing myself. I couldn't stop laughing. And I don't know if that was the professional thing to do, but I found it hysterical. And I was like, you know that everyone has weird thoughts, don't you? And he was like, well, like that? Yeah, absolutely. Everyone has weird thoughts, but you just think they mean something. So you're making them mean something. You're making them mean that there's something wrong with you, or you're nuts. But everyone has weird thoughts, like, all the time. And this is the nature of thought. And I'm sticking on this point for quite long, and I anticipated getting beyond this quicker, but it's important, because thoughts just flow. They flow past like the river. And in the river, sometimes there's bits of mud and bits of stick and shit, and it just flows. But we think that the best way of clearing our mind from this debris, whatever that word is to get in there and mix it all around, and then wonder why the water becomes all cloudy, and all we've done is stirred up all this crap, and now we can't see anything. We can't see clarity. We can't see the wood for the trees. And when actually, oftentimes, letting it settle, the water will always settle back to clear again. And the thoughts are supposed to flow. But from time to time, we take a thought and we make it mean something. The thought that says, I'm not good enough, or I'm scared to do this, or I'm scared to fail, or stressful thoughts that what if this and what if that, and negative predictions of the future. That's all anxiety is. You're creating negative predictions in the future of what you think might happen, and then living in the present moment as if it's true. You do that enough times and it starts to feel real. Replay old negative events enough times and it starts to feel real. Keep replaying the same thoughts, and before long the thoughts tend to kind of build up and become something, and then we feel the emotions of our thinking. But then we act differently because of the thinking, and then say, see, I knew I was right. It's the confirmation bias. It's the self-fulfilling prophecy, but it's all built on the misunderstanding that we think that our thoughts mean more than what they do. They are the Play-Doh of our world. If you think scary thoughts, you can create dragons out of Play-Doh, and you can be scared of them if you want. or you can build unicorns. I don't know what it is it's with unicorns today, but you can build restriction and limitations and anger and sadness and frustration and confusion, or you can build clarity and happiness, excitement, possibilities, confidence, certainty, determination. That they're your creations. And that's the point of this. You are creating the world from the Play-Doh of thinking, feeling the emotions, and then kind of living as if it's true and acting in a way that actually kind of supports our original hypothesis, if that makes any sense. So does that make sense? Just let me know quickly. Awesome. I'll drink my tea quickly whilst the comments come in. Awesome. Cool. We're getting yeses there. So the reason I've spent so much time on this is because once we see that we're not afraid of what we think we're afraid of, we're afraid of what we think, it starts to feel a little less scary. Once you see that you're not stressed about what you think you're stressed about, you start to feel a little bit less stressed. Once you see that the limitations are self-created from thinking, you start to see possibilities rather than limitations. And when you wake up and you go, oh, I feel like shit today, or I'm scared and nervous for doing the webinar today, or whatever it is for you, sales pitch or going to work or getting on the phone, or I don't know what you all do. Once you realize that, rather than go, oh, I think it's because of this and I think it's because of that, and maybe I haven't prepared enough, and maybe this and maybe that, and what if they judge me, or what, you go, oh, it's my thinking. So I'm living in the feeling of my thinking. If I'm feeling negative, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling, whatever, you go, oh, what am I thinking? Where are my thoughts? They're like, feelings are a barometer of thinking. If I'm thinking that I'm going to almightily fuck up this whole webinar, of course I'm going to feel some kind of negative emotion. But if I'm thinking that, yeah, I'm going to enjoy this will be fun, I'm just flowing with no slides, it's nothing I haven't done many times, you go, oh cool, of course I'm going to feel chilled. So that's the point of this, that our thinking can be a gift or a curse, especially if you're an overthinker, like I definitely am and have been. It is creative. It's the creative life force. It's, how did this cup become a cup? Because as far as I'm aware, it didn't grow out of the floor. It didn't fall out of the sky. It didn't come from a seed and grow. It was an idea. This began in someone's mind as a thought. That one day someone has gone, there's probably a number of people, someone's gone, wouldn't it be really great to invent a device that holds my drinking water or my tea? And probably 500 people have come up with the thinking as to why it isn't possible, and all the reasons it won't work, and all the reasons it won't catch on. And there's probably one person that's gone, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, I'm going to do that. And it comes from formless into form, from an idea into creation, from inspiration and creativity into something that actually physically exists. And that's how we create as humans. I'll come back to that question in a second. So it's recognizing that our thinking is the creative force, and we're free to create what we want. So so a question here, isn't that positive thinking then creating your happy mind? Yeah, in some ways, but I guess the reason I was talking about positive thinking, and that's a good question, is because positive thinking isn't something you have to do. It's not something you have to write in your to-do list and constantly put a lot of pressure on doing it. It's more our natural state. It comes more naturally when we connect to superconscious. Let me have a look at this. Looking at a glass half full. I'm overthinking everything. Yeah, cool. So overthinking is just a habit. It's habitual. Again, I am definitely an overthinker, and that's held me back a lot, which we'll go into. So going a little bit off script. I don't know if I was ever on script. I think I was. Because I'm going to move on. So this whole thing that I've just spoken about, if you was going to make any notes here, the note would say thought. It's the principle of thought. There are 3 principles which I look through the lens of when I come at my life. And the first principle is thought or thinking. And it's everything I've just said. That thought is the creative force. It's the Play-Doh of our existence. It's everything usually has come from some form of thinking. Now, the second principle, which I'll cover quickly, and then I'll finally get on to possibly my favorite. I don't know if I have a favorite, but the second principle is consciousness. So everyone seems to have varying levels of consciousness. Some people are so fucking negative, but yet they're not even aware that they are negative, and they're pessimistic and their whole life is miserable. And to a conscious person, maybe like you look at them and you're like, how are you not seeing that this is self-created? They just don't, for some reason, have the consciousness at that moment in time to see. And the same is true for us. Like, a really stupid example, I'll always give you stupid examples. For years, I love playing football. Uni, I played football, and every single week afterwards, I had chronic stomach ache in the shits after football. It's probably oversharing, but you'll get used to that. And I just thought, I just come to accept that that's just what happened when you played football. Like, that's just what happens. And it took me about 2 years to realize that my pre-match meal was beans on toast. So it's like, you fucking idiot. Of course that's going to cause a problem. Having a massive tin of beans, running to play football basically within half an hour, where all your blood moves away from your digestive system. And like, beans are known for that anyway. Like, I'm not going to sing you the song of beans, the musical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. But I just sung it for you in some way. But my point is, once I saw that, it was like, oh my God, how did I not see that? How did I not know that that was going on? And I use that as a physical expression there. But the same is true for thought patterns. The same is true for habits. The same is true for, once I saw the nature of what thinking is, I was like, oh my God. A client said to me that he's like, oh my God, it's like I've been creating the storm, but then complaining when it rains. I was like, yeah, totally. But once you see that, you go, oh, I get that now, but you didn't get it 2 seconds before that. This is why I love the nature of breakthroughs or insights. When you truly see something for yourself, you go, oh my God, I can't believe it. It comes with like wisdom. It's like knowledge. It's like common. It's like a Homer Simpson kind of dull moment where you're like, what an idiot. Yeah, I love that quote, which I've definitely stolen, but it come out in conversation and I told him I was going to steal it, so feel free to steal it as well. I'll just take credit for it. He was on the phone to me, so I'll steal it and that'd be fine. But anyway, consciousness, it's like a glass elevator I imagine like being in London, reasonably close to London. I don't know where everyone's from actually, but it's like some people are on level 1 and they really truly believe that all that exists is this street and row of houses. But people on level 5, no, there's a couple more rows of houses. People on level 50 are like, yeah, there's the river, there's houses, but you can shout down like, no, there's more. But those people, they don't know what it means. They don't know what it looks like. They sometimes don't understand what it is you're even saying. Like, what do you mean a river? What's a river? But the higher we kind of go in our elevator of consciousness, the more we see and the more other things look really obvious. It's really obvious down there that actually I couldn't get any sun because I was on level 1 and the buildings were blocking it. And I know this is just an analogy to try and point at something deeper here, but that's how consciousness works. Once you truly see the nature of thinking, people have come away from calls with me, and I don't believe it's because of me. Well, I suppose it probably is, but what I'm saying is I don't think I'm this magical kind of miracle, or if I am, we all are. But it's more because of what they see for themselves, because of the words I'm saying, because of the conversation we're in, it's my job to point you where to look. And it was honestly last week, I caught up with someone we spoke about 4 years ago, and he was like, we had one conversation, or it might have been a training actually, it might have been something like this, and his whole life transformed. not only does he feel happier, he stopped drinking. He went from drinking every single week to not drinking since that conversation. And that's not uncommon, by the way. Stopped drinking, started to find happiness within his life. And then he did everything that he told me he was going to do. He moved to Spain. He got the house, the cars, or whatever. But he's like, more than all of that, I realized I just wanted to be happy. And that's what I've now got. That come from one conversation. Now, I could say, wow, how great am I? Or you could look deeper than that and realize that his consciousness obviously raised in the conversation that allowed him to see things that made drinking no longer the obvious choice and not drinking the obvious choice. Once your consciousness raises and you see something for yourself, you see something within yourself, something more, something settles in, things change without really needing to. So this is, I guess I'm kind of flowing from the positive thinking here. It's like once you see the nature of thinking for what it truly is, it no longer makes as much sense to do so much about it. It's actually more self-correcting than we realize. So moving on, consciousness is not a difficult one to explain, but without the third principle, it's quite hard to yeah, hang on, someone seems to have come off mute here. Yeah, I'll get the, cool, right, anyway, back in the room. I'm trying to concentrate, I can't talk and concentrate. So once I bring the third in, it will start to make sense. So yeah, Henry, no worries, mate. Yeah, I'll try and get the recording out if I can. So how can we make our consciousness come out and be aware of things mentally? So hopefully this next part will answer this question. So the first principle is thought. Second principle is consciousness. Third principle is mind. You can call it mind, you can call it deeper mind, you can call it superconscious mind, whatever one sits with you. It's all pointing to the same thing. It's all pointing to this innate intelligence that is behind everything. So this is possibly more, you could call it more spiritual. If you're religious, you could call it God. If you're into the law of attraction, you could call it universe. I don't know what this is, but we'll stay in the conversation and we'll make sense of it as we go. But this plant, right? How the hell does it know how to grow? It just does. It just knows. And it knows to give me some oxygen, and I give it some carbon dioxide. We're in a symbiotic relationship, him and I, or her and I. Like we are literally thriving off each other's existence. Like, how does a sperm know where to swim? How does a tree know how to grow? How? Like, how does this make sense? Like, how is it that you can? I've watched a nature program. There's a crocodile and there's a bird that comes and sits in its mouth, right, and pecks the stuff out of its teeth. And the crocodile somehow knows that having it peck the shit out of its teeth is more useful than just eating the bird, and the bird knows to trust the crocodile. What? Like, how? Do they talk? Like, it doesn't make sense, but it makes so much sense because that's the way the world works. Like, there's genius in the design of the world. And if there's so much genius and intelligence in nature, then it also makes sense that there must be this in human nature. Like, I recorded a video earlier on, you'll see it later today on Insta or something, but our children, if you've got children, they didn't have to goal set or positive affirmations in the mirror. I will walk today. They didn't do that. They didn't goal set. They didn't like have to meditate on it, or they just somehow innately knew that if I keep trying this, I'll eventually walk. And actually, these noises coming out of your mouth seem like they achieve something. So I'm going to start to talk. We didn't need to send them on a kind of a talking course. I know sometimes, obviously, speech therapy and stuff, but there's this intelligence. There's this intelligence behind the way that we operate. And this is, hopefully we'll start to answer the question that there are different types of thoughts. There's kind of intellectual thinking where we try and figure things out and we look in the pile of old thinking of what we think we already know to be true, and then we apply that to what we think is possible, who we think we are, and what we think we can have, and what we think we can create, and what success we think we can have. And it's kind of, and this is what overthinking is as well. I know someone, let me scroll up, someone mentioned overthinking. Yeah, Sally. Overthinking is usually us just trying to figure shit out. We think that we need to know the answers. We think that we need to think about all of the possible outcomes and what I should do and shouldn't do and how it should be done and what's the best strategy tactic. But what if that goes wrong? And what if this goes wrong? And what if that happens? And what if I'm not this? And it's like we get lost in this maze of thinking, this intellectual thought, because it's all based on the limitations of what we think we already know to be true. It's all based on the limitations of the conclusions we've made and what we've been told. But what if there's a type of thought that's limitless and beyond that? What if intuitively you know what to do? What if you seem to have a gut feeling about things and you don't know why? And you make decisions based on a gut instinct and you don't know why, but they usually turn out well. And then you ignore your gut feeling because intellectually your thoughts told you this is a good idea, but your gut said no, and you do it, and then it turns out shit. It's like intuitively we tend to know, and it feels like common sense. My clients, the last mastermind, was all of us in the room, was joking about this because we call it the shower effect, which is it's just superconscious. It's just deeper mind, whatever. It's like he'd be thinking about all of his problems, but the minute he just goes, "Oh, I've had enough of this," and gets in the shower, forgets it all, he then comes up with a solution. The idea comes to mind, the inspiration comes to mind, the solution to the problem, but it hits us in this real, it kind of like drops in this really subtle but like, oh, obviously kind of way. Does anyone relate to that so far? That intuitive, like, it's like it plops into my head out of nowhere. Just let me know with a thumbs up or a comment. Cool. Yeah, so Sally said, I always go with my gut. On the other hand, I'm very impulsive and just think, fuck it, which is fine too. But yeah, Annie said, yeah, it's like, where did that come from? Where were you earlier? Totally. It's like it comes from something else. It comes from somewhere else. It's like we didn't have the answer, but then we did. And it's usually when we stop overthinking or thinking so much that the answer comes. Yeah, David there, completely made many mistakes ignoring it. Same as me. All of my worst decisions have come from ignoring my gut. And there are things like that, if you look back, you'll see it. But one of the obvious, there's a few different obvious things for me. One is that I got with Jenna. She was third year, I was first year. I liked a bit of a challenge, and I thought if I could pull this off, then I'll be Billy Big Balls. Back then, for me, it was a lot about proving to myself, proving to others. Didn't know that at the time, but there was a very genuine connection as well. And it didn't make sense to be with her. Every time we wasn't together, because she finished uni, moved 85 miles away from the uni, I logically told myself, it doesn't make sense. I don't want this commitment. I'm first year of uni. I've got another 2 years of this. How's it going to work? Long distance doesn't work. I should really have fun and enjoy myself more, in ways that you can imagine. And every time I drove to here, by the way, I now live where she's from. Every time I drove here, I was having the conversation in my head, how to split up. I need to do it in person. And every time I was with her, I was like, I can't. This is something special. It's giving me goosebumps actually saying it. Like, wow, I can't. But then the minute I left, I'd be having the thoughts again. I really need to, and all the reasons why. And I had this massive catalogue of why this wouldn't work, and just one gut feeling that said, this is too good to waste. And then obviously 11 years on, 2 kids on, that's proved to be true. That's one example. Another example is when I decided to do this as a job. So how this has worked is obviously I'm doing group stuff and stuff like that now. That's the next transition of what I'm doing. But when I first started out with this, I used to just do one-to-one work. And you can imagine me saying to Jenna and the in-laws, and you know, like, because we're quite close to them and they always see what we're doing, and obviously I've just fucked everything up for us. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get on the phone to people older than me, more successful than me, who run businesses bigger than I've ever run, and they're going to pay me. Just, of course, they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, it feels like that's what I want to do. And obviously here I am. So, but on the flip side, during that process, I intellectually thought it'd be a really good idea to buy a gym, and it was the worst decision I ever made. The night that I said, yes, all right, let's do the deal, I didn't sleep, and I sleep beautifully most nights. I did not sleep. I knew for a fact that was the fucking wrong decision, but I just went with it anyway. And that was, oh my God, it was the most horrific experience of my life. The gym doesn't exist anymore, by the way. So that taught me. But so anyway, I think I probably belabored the point there. But you get the idea that when you look back, so piecing this together, and I will start to wrap this up soon, because again, this is a conversation we'll have again. Even if you watch this recording back 5 times, you'd probably hear something different each time. It's weird. It's like every time you listen to it, the person that's watching it, i.e. you, is different each time, and you see something different. And like, you've probably had that happen where you read a book and you read something, you go, wow, I didn't see that the first time. Or you watch a film and you see something you didn't notice before. That's kind of the nature of these conversations. But so the idea is that, and you might have seen in one of my emails, depending on where you are, because it's automated leading up to this. So if you've subscribed in the last day or two, you won't have seen it. But essentially, what I talk about is how I used to think that, and it's always kind of been put this way, that performance equals capacity plus information. But if that's true, that implies all we're missing is information. And we are definitely not missing information. You can Google, you can read, you can search how to anything, how to make a sausage. I'm sure you could find the answer on Google within minutes, YouTube videos, podcasts, whatever. I've never Googled that, so I don't know if that's a good idea, but we're not missing the information. And for me, I wasn't missing the information. My head was already full of everyone else's thinking around what I should or shouldn't do, and the right and wrongs, and do this, but don't do that, and don't the 7 costly mistakes that are costing you everything. And so I had more information than anyone. In fact, I could probably stand up and present a whole presentation and sound like I know what I'm talking about, because intellectually I did, but I hadn't really understood it on a kind of a deeper level. It hadn't really sat in and come from, hadn't really seen it. So the formula for me is actually performance and results equals capacity minus interference, or minus contamination, or to clarify, minus interference of our thinking or contaminated thinking. So what I'm kind of proposing here is, when you tap into a superconscious mind, you have ideas and wisdom and clarity, and you usually know what to do. Your gut feeling normally points you in the direction of where to look, where to go. The thing that stops us and slows us down is then our thinking comes in, our intellectual habitual thinking, which overthinks it, tries to figure it out. But what if this, and what if that, and what if this happened? But don't you remember last time that this happened? So, I mean, how many of you have wanted to do something for years and years and years and years, and you know it's the right thing, but then you haven't either A, done it, or B, done it as quickly as you could have done because you've brought a load of overthinking and complexity into it? Has anyone had that experience? And then usually when you do it, you're like, oh my God, why is it taking me 4 years to do this? I should have done it 4 years ago. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, lots of profound yeses. Yeah. So lots of yes, yeah, all the time. Oh God, yeah, yes, definitely, yes. So frustrating, yes, for sure, yes. So what if then we followed mind, followed superconscious mind, followed deeper mind, and we removed the limitations of our thinking. We removed the contamination of our thinking. That, I can't say more than that. What then? How much more peaceful would you be? How much more would your life progress? How much quicker would you achieve? What kind of life would you create as a result? Because we create limitations and pressure and box ourselves in through thinking. But yet on some level, it's like our soul is dying because we're not doing what we really want to do. And we're not trusting that we actually either A, know the answers, or B, we'll figure it out as we go, because this feeling is too good to not mean something. Like, I am supposed to, based on the world that I'm from, marketing and stuff, I'm supposed to have a script today. And I'm supposed to hit this and say that and do this and twist your brain into pay me £1 bazillion and make you feel this and that and the other. Don't on any circumstance just free flow. But I'm like, fuck that. If that's how I've got to live, that's not how I'm going to live, because I trust that the right words come to me as I speak. You know, I enjoy this way too much for this not to mean something. I enjoy this way too much for it's just too enjoyable for me to not mean something. This has to mean something. And that's how this business has grown. And yeah, it's kind of scary because you feel like sometimes you're just pulling rabbits out of your ass. Like, you think it's not a reliable strategy or consistent, but then you stop to think, well, how reliable and consistent has my thinking been? How many times have I thought something and been wrong anyway? Do you know what, right? One funny example, this probably makes me sound like a dick, but I text Jenna and told her that I don't think I ever want kids. I just don't. I had a child at 16, 17. She was pregnant at 16. It was born when I was 17. I didn't enjoy it. I found it really difficult, partly because I didn't know. I thought parenting was supposed to be amazing every second of every day, and I found it hard, stressful. You know, I was on my own, etc. I texted her and told her that I don't want kids. I just don't think I ever do more than what I had. That same day, she texted back and said, I'm pregnant. Well done, me. That was good. Now, fast forwards, not only am I super happy with my 13-year-old, who's obviously my first son, but I've got 3, and they were and are even the greatest experience and gifts of my life. Doesn't mean sometimes I don't want to throw them out the window. Of course you do. Sometimes just, leave me alone. Let me poo in peace. You know, like, can you stop asking me crap questions? But for the most part, they're the best thing that's ever happened to me, for sure. They made me want to be more. They gave me purpose. There's such joy to let them, kind of give them the freedom to become who they are. My point is, how wrong was I imagine if I'd robbed myself of this happiness because of my contaminated thinking that told me that I don't want to have kids. I could have robbed myself of the greatest gifts. So with that in mind, someone's soaring outside. 2 seconds. You can probably still hear me, but I'm going to shut the window. With that in mind, it really just starts to point to how reliable is my thinking anyway? And actually, if my thinking isn't that reliable, then and intuition and gut and deeper mind seems to be, it kind of makes sense to start living from that place instead. It starts to make sense that we don't need to know as much shit as we think we do. We don't need to figure it all out. We don't need to explore the deepest, darkest depths of our mind just to try and muster up some form of confidence or whatever, because we think that's what we need. This is so much more reliable than, and it takes a while, don't get me wrong. You're probably not going to come away from this and, get it straight away. It's a conversation you have to stay in. I've got Berry and Duncan on the call here, and this is probably about the 7th time they've heard me talk about it. Although, are you hearing something different this time? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Yeah. So it's like, there is an art, there is a bit of a repetition to it, and the more you hear it, the more it settles in, the more you see it. You go, hang on, what's this James kid talking about? Kid, I wish I was a kid. This James bloke talking about, and it settles in deeper each time. But anyway, I'm going to start to wrap this up. So I kind of didn't cover. I covered some of what I wanted to cover, but not all of it. I kind of knew that would be the case. Essentially, like I promised you the 3 steps, and I did also promise you something else as well. Are you all good for time? Have you got like another 20 minutes? Because there's a couple of cool little things I'd like to show you. Just give me a yes, or just give me a no if you're not, because if you're not, then that will probably give me yes or a no. I don't know. Give me the answer. Yeah. All right. Cool. Does anyone want to play a little game with me? Yeah, I'm gonna take it as a yes. I don't need your answer again, but yeah, Charlotte. Yeah, I'll record this. I'll get the link out in the next day or 2. So a little game. I'm taking my shoes off. Don't know why. Just feels like the right thing to do. Maybe to connect to my inner hippie or something. I'm not sure, but this is what's happening. So, Barry, Duncan, you've done this before, but you probably want to do it anyway. There's no disadvantage to this for sure. So I'm going to take you through something again that's going to point you towards the elusive nature of thinking, just to kind of illustrate this point. After that, I will talk you through the three steps, because that's what I promised. And then finally, I'll finish up by telling you, if you want to carry this conversation on, how we can do that. So the first thing I'm going to get you to do is, ideally, you're somewhere now where you can be left alone. So if you're driving, don't do this, because you're going to probably run someone over. And what I'm going to get you to do is, and I'm going to do this with you, by the way, and talk you through it as we go. So before I do this, actually, just for fun, let's get you involved in this. Think about your biggest cause of stress right now. Biggest cause of stress, or frustration, or anger, or overwhelm, or thing you're overthinking. Think about what that thing is. And then out of 10, like 10 being, this is a real issue for me, this is really kind of causing me stress, keeping me up, I think about it all the time. 10 being high, 0 being low. Like, what is it out of 10? How much stress is that causing you out of 10? Give me a number in the chat. 7, 9, 8, 8, 8. Cool, this is good. 7, 8, 9. So they're all high numbers. Love that. Love that, because of what will or won't happen over the next minute or 2. 8, 8, 9, 7. Beautiful. Okay, so just find yourself somewhere, find yourself comfortable. I'm going to get you to look at something that's not going to move. So randomly for me, I've got a box of green tea on the desk. So find something that's not going to move. And I want you to go into peripheral vision. So you're looking at that thing, but you're allowing everything else to come into your existence. So as you expand your vision without moving your eyes, you'll probably notice that you can see the whole room, even though you're not moving your eyes. And then from this place, we're just going to start to breathe deeply in through your nose, deep into your diaphragm, so low into your stomach, and then out through your mouth. So in through your nose, out through your mouth. I'm going to time this just to illustrate how quickly this happens. So in through your nose, out through your mouth. Now we're going to turn this into box breathing. So we're 4 seconds in, hold for 4 seconds, out for 4, and then hold for 4. So there's 4 sides to this. In through your nose, deep into your stomach for 4. Hold. Out through your mouth. And then hold. So you're staying in peripheral vision. in through your nose, deep into your stomach. Really pay attention to that. Hold for 4 and then out for 4. Just pay attention to how it feels and how it sounds as you breathe out as well. Still in peripheral vision. You're letting everything come into your vision. Keep that breathe in. So it's just 4 seconds in, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. Now what I want you to do is think of that thing that was causing you stress. Try and think of that. See if you can actually think of it, or notice, does the thought keep dropping? Are you struggling to pick the thought up? Are you struggling to remember what the thought even was? We're nearly 2 minutes in here, so this has been a short, but try and add a number to that as well. So you're still in peripheral, you're still box breathing. How much stress is that causing you out of 10? That thought. Right, I'm going to bring you back now just for time purposes. You're 2 minutes in, but let me know in the comments, what was the number? Did it go down? Did you struggle to pick up the 4? So we've got, wow, that's impressive. 4 went down, 7 down to 5. Cool. So yeah, Marco said, wow, that's impressive. 4. Ollie, 7 down to 5. I don't know your name because I'm not sure how to pronounce that, and I don't want to kind of mess that up. Can't even think about why it bothers me. 9 down to 5, 8 to 5. Cool. 8 to 6. Went down to about 4. Yeah, so love that. 9 to 5 there. Perfect. So the reason I love that, that's a technique for free, by the way. As far as I'm aware, I created that, so I need to probably trademark it and call it, I don't know, the something. I learned that box breathing is something they do in the military. The peripheral thing is something I accidentally come across. I merged them together and it seems to work better. So yeah, so that, just FYI, use that when you feel stressed, use that before a meeting, use that before an important call, or use that if the kids are winding you up and you feel like you're going to explode. Use that when you're journaling, meditating, when you're overthinking and you want clarity. It's endless. Yeah, so that was useful from Annie. 8 down to 5/6 takes time out of thinking about things that you're worrying about. Yes, so that comment is perfect, because this is where the principles blew my mind, and I've come across a lot of stuff because I started to realize that breathing exercises, extreme sports, even sex and drugs, meditation, training, we are naturally looking for a way of getting out of our thinking, slowing down the thinking, getting out of our heads and down deeper into this deeper mind. It's what they're all pointing to. All of my clients that tended to use alcohol, food, drugs, sex, were just looking for some space from their overthinking, the stress, the overwhelm, the complexity. Or on the flip side, if you've got better, healthier habits, I'd argue, meditation, breathing, training, running. I studied this at uni, flow, they call it. It's when time disappears and thinking stops, and it's from those places that we tend to get the clarity, the inspiration, the ideas. So this again is pointing to getting out of our interference of thinking and into our deeper mind. Now, the reason I love this exercise is your stress went from a 9 down to a 5 or down to a 4 or whatever it was for you, from an 8 down to a 6. But nothing changed. As far as I'm aware, nothing changed. Like whilst you was doing that, I don't think that your outside world changed in some way. So what that means is it points to how our challenges, struggles, suffering, anxiety, overthinking, stresses, they're all born here. And if you can change the way you feel in less than 2 minutes, well, imagine the implications of that. Again, it goes back to what I said earlier, creating the storm and then complaining when it rains. Well, we can create sunshine if we want. and then go do something with that. So anyway, I need to share my screen, I believe, actually, for the last bit. Somehow, yeah, Jamie, I didn't realize I shared that with you before, but love that. Let me see if this works. So I should be sharing my screen. Can everyone see this? Yeah, I've lost everyone's faces for a second, so I've lost chat. Let me. Cool, got a thumbs up, so that's cool. Now this is in the way. Bloody thing. Because I did do a couple of slides for this. I just decided not to use them. Here are my few slides, which we covered anyway. Can you see the whole of my screen? Can you see my slides now? Duncan, or yeah, cool, awesome. I'll get you to people I can see on camera. It's quicker than getting chat. So I covered the 3 principles. As you know, I covered 4. I covered proof of thought was that was actually where I was supposed to box brief, but forgot. Consciousness mind, or superconscious mind. So I'm not going to cover the 4 insight. Well, I can, but I'll be quick because I'm conscious of time. Number 1, you're making it all up. You're making it all up and then living as if it's real. So once you understand that you're making it all up, all the reasons why you can't do something or can do something, or the anxiety, the stress, the worry, the panic, the whatever, you're making it all up. So actually you can make up something different, which is pretty cool. You live in the feeling of your thinking, not the feeling of your circumstances. I think I covered that. No amount of success, money, or love will make you okay, because ultimately you're trying to solve an inside problem with an outside solution. It doesn't work that way. There is an analogy I can share with that, but I'm not going to. I think I covered that enough, but there is a short story. I'll tell it because I find it funny. Imagine we're all out. I don't know, we're in a pub or something. I don't like pubs, but let's just imagine we are. With you lot, I'd probably like pubs. The point is, I actually don't really like humans unless they're my humans, because I hate talking about the weather and bullshit, but I can talk about this stuff all day. So let's imagine we're all in a pub and we go outside and someone's looking around under the street lamp. And obviously we're nice humans. So we're like, you know, what are you looking for? He's like, my keys. So before long, we're all down on our knees, like looking for the keys, like looking everywhere, like picking things up. Like, and we're all thinking, like, trying to get them to like work out where are they. We're looking in the gutter, and then one of us decides to ask the guy, like, well, I know it sounds like a silly question, but where did you last have them? And he goes, oh, I had them at home. Well, why the fuck are you looking out here then? Why are you looking under the street lamp? And he goes, well, the light's better here. So my point is, if you're looking in the wrong place, you'll never find it. If you're looking outside to, again, feel happy, calm, peaceful, to create, to feel inspiration, you're looking under the street light, but you're looking in the wrong place. So that's the point of that. Then the final thing is, I've already covered this, performance equals capacity minus interference. So I've done all right. Look, mind guided me through and we've arrived safely. So the final thing is the 3 steps, which essentially in my mind is self-awareness. Self-awareness for me is just exploring and dissolving, because self-awareness is looking in, and there is invisible thinking. There are things that aren't visible to us until they become visible. So I love self-exploration because I find parts of myself. I find these little thoughts that I didn't know I was thinking that were in my subconscious, and just finding them is enough, because you go, you know, what's the, often when you find something, it just dissolves, and it's fun. Actually, there's nothing more enjoyable than self-exploration for me. Like, what did I make up about money? What did I make up about parenting? Who do I think I have to be? Who do I think I am? You know, what would I have to think in order to act this way? Or what's going on for me that's causing me this stress? Or what would I do differently next time because I wasn't happy with the way I did that? So that to me is self-awareness, where we're aware of, we're always looking. It's continual. As far as I'm aware, this never ends. But when you love it, there's nothing better. Anyway, there's nothing else you'd rather do. So self-awareness is And plus it stops becoming like oh, what's wrong with me? And it starts being like this is cool. Like, let's see what I can find today, you know, or I see something new and I go, you know, it's like unlocking in some way. So self-awareness is the kind of explore and dissolve. So how you do that is journaling questions, you know, sitting in silence, meditation, reading, getting on calls like this. Things will come up for you as you're in the conversation. Second thing, when this eventually moves, second is self-mastery. For me, that's just growing and becoming. That's, now I know this, now I've seen this, now I've had these insights, this clarity, this inspiration. How do I grow into that? How do I become that? You know, now I have up-leveled my skill in some way or my awareness. It's just growing into that, showing up with that, showing up into the world with that. And again, that kind of takes care of itself sometimes. You know, it's like, once I realized that for the first time, I become aware that I was a bit of a dick sometimes and made people feel like they were on eggshells and nothing was good enough. I only really needed to become aware of that once before I realized that that's not something I wanted to do anymore. And beyond that point, then deeper mind comes in, and you can start to kind of sit with the idea of, how do I communicate better, or what's going on for me, or so yeah, it kind of takes care of itself. But again, it's being in the conversation. If you're aware of it and then ignore it, it doesn't change. If you're aware of it and you look in the direction of improvement, growth, then you'll find that things change. Final thing is habits and behaviors, which is pretty much create and enjoy. So it's kind of where the rubber meets the road. It's like this constant evolution of self, where you're self-aware, self-mastery, and then the habits are like, for me, they're the things that keep me in the game. For me, the habits are journaling, reading, you know, talking about this stuff, getting on calls. I get on calls where I'm not the one talking, I'm the one listening, or these are unique to you, but you'll find the things that keep date night, another example, weekly date night, or training, or the things that keep me in this evolutionary cycle of self-awareness, self-mastery, kind of, or explore and dissolve, grow and become, create and enjoy. It's like, I see something, I become more, I go and test it in the world, and then it becomes this feedback loop of, wow, I've got better. And you find yourself going, God, do you remember when I used to lose my temper in traffic? Like, and I don't know when that stopped, but God, yeah. And I'll look at Jenna and she's like, oh yeah, I used to be like really angry. And don't get me wrong, that's there sometimes, but you suddenly just realize you change without really remembering how or why or when. It just happened because you're staying in the conversation of this. Does that all make sense so far? I've lost my chat, so I found it. Here we are. Yeah, cool. That analogy smashes, mate. I don't know what analogy that was, but I'm imagining that was the looking under the light one. Yeah, Jamie, I've done this many times without realizing this is the steps I took. Yeah, perfect. So the next thing is essentially, if you want my help, which you may or may not, and that's totally cool. Like, before I go forward from this point, I've genuinely had fun with this. I really, really have, as you can probably tell. And it's just fun. And if you guys weren't here, guys or girls, I don't know if guys covers everyone, but guys, girls, whatever, then I would just be talking to myself and it wouldn't be as much fun. So yeah, I have no expectations of what you have to do beyond this point. It's not that I don't care, but I care that you make the decision that's right for you. So that's that. You know, you carry on or you don't. That's cool. But if you obviously want to stick around and see what I've got to offer, then this will be pretty short because I'm not going to talk for hours. It's simple, it's to the point, and you know, you either want to join or you don't. So so in terms of one-to-one, some of you have obviously I think quite me one-to-one on some level. One-to-one for 12 weeks is $3K. That's not really what I want to sell today, if I'm honest. I love one-to-one, but I'm evolving more towards group. I'm enjoying that a lot. I'm seeing the power of a group and a community. And plus, for some people, it's a lot of money, you know. And as I said, a lot of my clients they're in very, you know, good positions financially. So to them, the value is insane. You know, as I said, like even just off the top of my head, you know, they were going to, you know, going through like filing for divorce was going to cost like 6 figures, and he's still married 4 years later, you know. So did it cost him 3K or did it save him 100 grand? You know, yeah, it's up to him to decide on that. But if you're someone that just wants one-to-one, then cool, go for it. Obviously we'd need to chat first. So if that's something you want to do, you'll have to message me and we'll talk first, because it needs to be a good fit, really. I don't usually just send me your money and job done. I'd like to actually have a conversation first and see where we're at. So moving on. As you probably know anyway, like courses like this are, you know, normally like 200-300 quid. 295 is, I mean, I buy courses like this all the time, to be honest. So courses like this with no support, usually around 295, because it's just trying to work out where to kind of price this, really. Courses like this with group coaching element are normally $1,000 to $3,000. Again, it's prices I pay. For me, this is something that's only 7-8 weeks in. Got 2 people on the call that are in it, actually. So I wanted to make this a price where it's a no-brainer. Oh, I wrote that. Look at that. I wanted to make this a price where it's a no-brainer, and you're like, oh my God, it's an absolute steal. It's, you know, it should be more expensive. I prefer that. I much prefer that experience where someone's going, oh my God, it's like so cheap, you should put your prices up. I'm totally cool with that, because that's what I want. You know, I want it to be enough for you to be invested and take it seriously and take the time out of your life to show up, but not so much that you're gonna, you know, I don't know, like panic every time it goes out your account. Obviously, what's it worth? It's up to you. You know, what's it worth to stop overthinking? What's it worth to actually create what you want to create? What's it worth to feel calmer, happier, less stressed? What's it worth in terms of how that impacts your health, your happiness, your immune system, your relationships, your life? I don't know. For me, it's worth a lot, which is why I spend a lot. Much to Jenna's dissatisfaction, I spend an extraordinary amount on coaches and books. But for me, I just love it, and it's changed my life. But that's me. It's up to you to decide where you're at with it. So I think that's the end of my slide. So I was actually just going to take you over to what happens if you want to join. So essentially, I'll send you the link in the comments in a second, although it's telling me to send that to privately, so I'll have to, everyone in meeting, there we go. So essentially this is the page you'll go through to if you decide to carry on. What you get is this. I'm building the online members area at the moment, so you'll need to bear with me, because that will be, I'm blazing through that at the moment. Up until now, you just had conversations with me. The last nearly 5 years, it's just done over the phone, or it's done on group calls, and you just listen to me talk, much like today. Gets incredible results, etc., etc. But it's really occurred to me that I want to give more, and I want to put more kind of actionable stuff into the membership site. So it's kind of an extra, but essentially you can read here what you get here. Module 1 is clarity and insight. Michael, that's cool. Yeah, you'll be on the email list anyway. Share it with someone else. I'll have to give you the link, I think. Or if you see my ads on Facebook, which will probably continue to do so, you can just tag them in that. But so module 1, you can read this anyway. Clarity and insights, just about understand what's going on inside your head, learn what makes you tick, and go from confusion, overwhelm, fear, and anxiety to clarity, understanding, insight, and inner peace. Module 2 is more about beliefs and breakthroughs. So as you've established today, it's just removing the limitations, identifying the invisible thinking, the stress triggers and the habits that are slowing you down and stopping you from accessing your superconscious mind, and then obviously reaching your full potential with that. Module 3 is leverage and power. So discover your superpowers, innate wisdom and genius, to go from overthinking, second guessing and self-doubt to unlimited clarity, confidence, creativity and certainty. 4 is more purpose and passion. So how to create a powerful, purposeful life that makes you feel you have unlimited energy, passion, and unquestionable trust in vision, goals, and purpose. So you're probably going to be making sense of this as we go because of what we've spoken about. And then 5 is focus and control. So simple, tried and tested habits to keep you focused, fired up, and in the game, even when you face setbacks, downs, or darkness, because that's the nature of life. If you're hoping that life will suddenly become easy, it won't. You just become better at managing and dealing with it, and even thriving in it. To be honest, I've realised I've actually achieved more, done more, and created more in lockdown than I have in the last 4 years. So sometimes we wish for life to be easy, but what we actually need sometimes is the resistance to make us be stronger. It's like going to the gym and picking up weights made of foam. We're not going to get stronger, but it's being graceful it's maximizing the highs. It's making use of the highs, but being graceful in the lows. And what you'll find is that the highs become more consistent, the lows become less frequent and last not as long, but that's a conversation for another time. What you also get as well is the live weekly group calls on Zoom. So this basically, but obviously with each week we cover different things. It just means you stay in the conversation. You can obviously watch the recordings if you want, but the only difference is you may, when we get into this, you may decide to actually unmute yourself and we can get involved in the convo. So you can then ask specific questions and I can coach you around certain things. Some people just lurk and linger in the background, but hearing me talk to, say Barry who's on the call, you'll find that as he gets insights, you get insights. So it's quite an amazing thing, really. So that happens weekly. This first one's on Friday, so if you join, you'll be on that anyway. The private Facebook group, so you have unlimited access to me and the other members. There is a huge power in being in a group of like-minded people. I've been in many groups, but often not my actual people. It's very different when you're in people that get this, get you. So yeah, there's that. Anything to add to that? I think for me, not only am I going to be pointing you in the direction of where to look and giving you the insights I've had, and you may find that as I share my insights, you get them too. That's the point. As I tell a story, you go, God, it sounds like me. And then you hear kind of what I've taken from it, and that will help you take something from it. But staying in the conversation. It always frustrated me when people would stop talking to me and their lives would get worse. And it's like, just stay in the conversation, or they'd stop talking to me, stop reading books, stop listening to audiobooks, stop journaling, meditating, or humans are so good at not doing the things that they know help them. There's something about staying in the conversation, being in a community like this, that it's a constant reminder. It means our attention and our focus is always going in the direction of this, which means we're always actually growing, evolving, and back in that cycle that I mentioned, where it's kind of like the 3 circles that I showed you. So there's a no bullshit bonus here, because again, I don't want to do all the bonus stacking, say this is worth £1 bazillion, and for the next 10 seconds you get it for 2p or whatever the scarcity is. But for the next 10 people that join, I do want to give you the live in-person mastermind, which obviously once lockdown is over, so I don't know the date yet, but we'll meet. So if that's something that excites you, then cool. Now the final question is price, and yeah, it'd be interesting to see what you think of this, because I sat with this a lot. There's many pages in here. I really wanted to sit with what felt right, and it needs to be enough for people to be invested in it, but I didn't want it to be so much that there's pressure on it. So I wanted to make it quite simple, really. So essentially, this is the checkout page, by the way. You can pay via PayPal. That will be sorted. You can click that, it'll take you through. This is the checkout page. So essentially, it's $97 a month. You can add a call if you want, but that's just if you fancy it. So it's $97 a month. Now, the way this works is you'll get access to all of this. And even if you stick around for a month, get all of this and then leave, cool. That's fine. If you haven't valued the group coaching and the group enough to stick around, I'm not offended by that. That's totally cool. like there's no contracts, whatever. If you actually pay and you think it's shit, then I'll just give you your money back. Like, it doesn't matter to me. I'd rather have people in it that love it and lives transform as a result of it, and message me and say, wow, this is incredible. That to me lights me up more than someone not being happy. Does that make sense? Like, if you get in and it's not what you expected, or it's not what you want, or you didn't, I don't know, just whatever, I'll give you your money back, it's fine. Or get in, get what you want, get out. Stay as long as you get value, and the minute you don't anymore, then you just leave. It's totally cool. Obviously, some people might stick around forever. Some of my clients tend to, some won't. So that's that, really. I'm now going to open this up for questions. Let me go back to not sharing. Not pretty sure I'll do that. Stop. There's a big button that says stop, and yet somehow I couldn't see that. Right. So yeah, does anyone have any questions? Oh, I need to give you the link, actually. That would help tremendously. Otherwise, no one can join anything. So let me put the link. So there's the link. What will happen is, as I said, you'll go through to Samcart. You can pay with your card or PayPal. I'll get you added to the group. The first call is on Friday, 12:30. Then the membership site you'll get access to as I get that live. I've just got to get everything into it. But as I said, you'll keep access to that anyway. So yeah, it's not going anywhere. Cool. Does anyone have any questions of any form? Like, we can just open this up now and cool. Okay, mate. Perfect. Good to see you. I know I haven't heard your voice, but good to see you on camera. But yeah, we'll catch up, mate. Yeah, does anyone? Yeah, weekly calls on a Friday are the same time. I mean, I can change them if they need to. At the moment, it tends to work because people are in lockdown. But yeah, they tend to be 12:30. I can change them possibly. How many do I envisage being in the group? I'm not really sure. Because what happens is some people just lurk. Some people, they're in the group, they don't show up. I don't even know if they're even getting value. So then I'm like, I don't like that. So I'll go message them like, yeah, it's awesome. I'm loving it. And this has happened and that's happened. And my wife and kids have noticed the difference. And I'm like, oh, all right. Because they just watch the calls and they just watch from a distance. Other people will be involved, will be on the calls and get value that way. So I guess the reason I'm saying this is I will grow the group, but if it starts to feel too much, then I'll do something about that. So if all of a sudden I had a bazillion people on a call, I don't know what number a bazillion is, then I'd probably look at, where are we at? How many videos in each online section? There's more than one video for each. Yeah, they'll be broken down. So some of them, not all of them are recorded yet. As I said, I'll be kind of re-recording. I didn't like my old ones. Re-recording, building that out over the next couple of days. The videos will be, I like to keep videos short, like 5 to 10 minutes, so you can just watch them, digest them. And it's almost, I just find it easier. I don't know about you, but when I go to watch an hour video, I'm like, oh, it feels long. So the videos will be, 5-10 minutes. How many are currently live? At this precise moment, none, but by the end of the day, there will be the first module or so. So basically, I'll be ahead of you. So as you're watching them, there'll be more added. I'll have this complete pretty quickly, to be honest. I'll fly through this. It's already designed, it's already written, it just needs recording. So, or re-recording, because the old ones were recorded years ago and I've got better since then. So what you're probably better off doing is getting in the group, getting on the first call. You can watch the old ones, actually. When would you aim to have these 5 modules to be live? Cool, this is like keeping me accountable to this. When would I aim to have them live? Well, ideally, I guess what I'd be thinking is getting the first module done in the next day or two. And then by the time you're through that, if you binge watch it, then I'll be ahead of you. So ultimately, as you progress onto the next module, that'll be there. How long? A week, probably. Don't know. Next few days. Yeah, I don't either. I'm someone that I want it, and I want it now. So that's why I'll get it done quick. If I buy something, I want to access it. I want to watch it. I want to binge watch it. So yeah, it will be today, tomorrow. I reckon I could probably. I don't want to overcommit here. I like to over deliver, but I reckon the next week or so. But I'm not gonna. Yeah, I won't rush them. Yeah, they'll be in there. They'll be in there soon. It won't be months. No. Oh God, no. It'll be weeks. I am all or nothing. I'm someone that basically, if I do something, it gets done. It's like this webinar went from an idea in my mind to being sat on it now. Plus, I've got about 70 ads live. Plus, there's like 4 different versions of the video and a text form on Insta and Facebook. It all happened within like a week because, you know, don't fuck around. When I want to do something, I do it basically. So that's how I work essentially. So, but yeah, also I won't want to keep people waiting because we lose momentum with that. But that's why ideally, you know, you're in the group, you're on the call, and then the stuff will be in there, be dropping in pretty quick. Any more questions? If there's any more questions around this particularly, what is the time? We've covered quite a bit of ground today. Yeah, any more questions around this? And then if not, I'll take some questions, probably more specifically. I've got a bit more time around any particular questions that anyone has with challenges or anything. No one's giving me questions. Let me leave that there for a second. So the link's in the comments if you want to do that. Let me just check my phone. It's funny, my phone has been going off. Well, not going off, it's always on no alerts, but as in I look and there's like a million messages. Nothing hugely important though. Yes, can you stop the monthly payments anytime? Yeah, totally. Yeah. So you'll probably just have to message me. You can message me on Facebook or I don't know, however you want to message me. Wherever you find me, you message me. Stop them whenever. The reason I like that, again, I was considering selling this as, you know, as a 12-week program, and it'd be 1,000 or even 300, and that may happen at some stage. You might see this change into that, but the reason I like monthly is because you stick around for as long as it's valuable to you. You know, the minute you start going, actually, do you know, I'm not getting anything from this anymore, cool, you know, you leave. Or you go, this is awesome, and I don't want to stop paying. I just want to keep being in the conversation and just keep going with this. And as I'm bringing new stuff to the calls, one thing with me is I'm constantly evolving and growing, adapting, learning from other people. You know, having my own coaches, my own group coaching, etc. So one thing's for sure is this will constantly be an evolution, and as you evolve as well, what you get from it will change. But any more questions? Awesome. Yeah, I'll probably send some emails out to people that are on this as well to catch up. Looks like no questions. Cool. So any more questions before I let you all get on with your life? Anything that comes to mind? Awesome. Awesome, Jamie. Good to have you in. Look at that. Boom. Yeah, Duncan, I'll see you. Yeah, see you Friday. So the same time Friday as well. And you've got someone joined you as well. Cool. If there's no more questions, I will wrap it up. So get typing quickly, or we are done. Thanks, mate. Good to see you. Awesome. Well, I'm gonna leave it there. But no, honestly, it's a pleasure having everyone in the conversation. It's been fun. And for anyone that's joining or already joined, then yeah, so be awesome. It's good fun. It's sometimes you get from it what you don't expect to get from it. You know, things change in ways you don't anticipate, or things change without things changing. It's crazy, which is why I love it. But yeah, anyone that, you know, if you're in there, it'd be fantastic. If not, then we'll touch base and we'll see where you're at, what's going on, what's kind of settled in. Sometimes this is like shaking a snow globe, where the snow is everywhere, and over the next few hours things tend to settle. But yeah, cool. Okay, awesome. I'm gonna let everyone crack on then, and I'm gonna go and eat now. See you on Friday, Barry. Good to have you here, and Jamie as well. Awesome to have you inside. Yeah, cool. I'm gonna dash off. Bye bye.